I did meet my husband in 1967. I was fresh out of college. I had graduated, and my parents were very happy that I had graduated before I met my husband. And actually, it was, we were young. It was amazing that when I met him, he was 22 years old. When I think of some 22-year-olds now, I'm wondering how did he manage to do what he did when he was 22. It was a very, and one good thing was that he introduced me to a big family, and that big family was SNCC. I was greeted, I was born and raised in New York. And many of the SNCC folks were from the South, as my husband was. And so at times it was like maybe we were worlds apart, but not really, because I was involved in New York City in certain movements dealing with human rights. It was a very exciting time. And I say that because we were young, we didn't realize the danger. We did not know that COINTELPRO was operating. By August 25th, 1967, Hoover had put out his memo to all of the field offices of the FBI, and my husband, along with Elijah Muhammad, Max Stanford, Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael at that time, they were all targeted. And I have this little memo that I walk around with, because when I think about COINTELPRO, I think about this particular memo. And I'm just going to share it and then see if I can just move on. But the memo at that time with COINTELPRO, they wanted to naturally neutralize, and I think Kathleen will get into that, and perhaps Ramsey Clark too, the purpose of COINTELPRO and what they accomplished. But this one was really a funny memo that we got later on, back in, I think, in the 70s. And it was a suggestion that this letter be sent to Rapp. And it said, "Dear Rapp, dig this man. I got it from inside. Stokely and Foreman sent you to the West Coast so that the man would get you. They are a little too cool for you, Rapp baby. With you out of the way, they can have the whole pie." And the above letter designed to plant seeds of distrust between Brown, Carmichael, and Foreman will be typed double-spaced on plain white paper. The typing of the letter and envelope will be handled by the NYO. The letter will be mailed from a mailbox in NYC and sent to Brown as soon as his address can be determined. Now, this is the FBI. This is the intelligence that we were going through. And then, so this is actually the official memo from the FBI with COINTELPRO. So this is what we were dealing with, the breaking up the unity of not only among the organizations, but within the organization. Yes, I've been with him since 1967. He has, and he was always a target of government actions to get rid of him. The H. Brown Amendment in 1968 was enacted after he spoke in Cambridge, which was in '67. But the intent of that was to make it a felony to cross state lines to incite a riot or encourage people to riot. And based on that amendment, about 80 cases, the first one was the Chicago 8 or 7 or 8, whichever, however we want to count Bobby Seale in that. But Chicago, that case, also Wounded Knee, certain weather people, and it just went on. But that amendment is still on the books. So he was always, and as he moved on from SNCC and moved on to be a national and international person or leader within the Muslim community, nationally and internationally, it continued. So I was with him all of those years, and the amazing thing about him was that he was never projected as the person, the quiet. He was actually very quiet. I used to, when he called me on the phone, I used to tell him, "Can you speak up? I can't hear you." And everyone had this, oh, you know, this big picture of him being wild. He was not wild. I don't think that I could have lived with him for all those years if he were wild. I have a lot of personal stories, and you know I do. If I'm ever given the opportunity to continue to share those personal stories with you, I will.
If you write a letter, write it to the President of the United States, write it to the Attorney General, and send a copy if you want to the Director of the Bureau of Prisons. It certainly doesn't hurt to write him. But it's going to be a political decision. And it ought to be, and the President of the United States ought to face up to it. He can, if enough of us call his attention to it. And so when you write the Imam himself, send a copy to the President with a note to the President, and ask him why this good man is in the prison of the United States during his administration. Shouldn't happen.